All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you to each of you who made it here on time because I am a big believer that you honor people's time. And so we're gonna go ahead and get started. For those who may not know, my name is Latonia Monroe Naylor. I have various hats. As I said in the last session, I'm a mom with many hats. That's the way that I like to describe myself. And I am currently a consultant, the owner and chief educator for Monroe Naylor Consulting. I'm also the president and CEO of a local nonprofit, Parent Villages. Happy to see some of my staff that are here today. Hi. And then I'm also on the school committee here in Springfield. And I've been on the school committee for 6 years, currently the vice chair of the school committee for Springfield Public Schools. And probably a couple other things that I'm not thinking about, but that's okay because we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about caring enough to make a lasting impact. Why a shift to empathetic leadership can create a lasting impact on your organization. So what to expect? What is empathy in the workplace? Why empathy? The pathway to empathy and recognizing what empathy is. So before we move on, I have to say that empathy is one of those things that you really have to plan for. Like you have to be intentional every single day. So one of the things that I do, and my staff will know and be familiar with this, is I will say, oftentimes when we have a check-in or something like that, we'll sit down and the first thing I say to them is, close your eyes. We'll let folks come in and sit. Because we don't want nobody walking into a chair with their eyes closed. So close your eyes and breathe out stress. Breathe in energy. Breathe out toxic relationships. Breathe in healthy relationships. And we'll do one more. Breathe out anxiety. Breathe in relaxation. All right, open your eyes. That's one of the things that I do. I like to get centered and I like to bring everybody in so that we can all be centered together. And the other thing that I do, I'm gonna have to close this out for a hot minute. This is the other thing that I like to do. Let's go. I don't know what you're going through, but we stop by to tell you that what's in front of you is bigger than what's behind you. I want you to read the lyrics. You might as well shout before you get it, because God's simply here to tell you that what He has for you is going to be big. I believe that it's my season. That it's my season. You ought to declare that over your own life. Say, I believe. I believe that it's my time. That it's my time. It's my time. It's my time. And I can feel it. I can feel it. Say breakthroughs in the room. Breakthroughs in the room. It's yours if you want it. Anticipating. Anticipating. God's getting ready to move. God's getting ready to move. Listen, you ought to declare this. About to end it though, but I want you to hear this. God is working a miracle just for me. Just for me. And it's gonna be. And it's gonna be. Hey, listen, I don't know about you, but now that's just one of the things that I do. And the reason why I brought that up is because whatever you do to keep yourself at a space to be able to do all these things that I'm about to tell you about, you got to do what it takes for you. So for me, it's my music. Sometimes my staff will hear me. I'm in the office and they know if she got her music on, don't go up in that room for a few minutes because something's going on and she's processing whatever it is, and she'll be ready when that song is over for me to knock on the door. Right? And so then when they knock on the door, they get the me that they know. But for that moment, I had to do some little bit of rejuvenation because I got a phone call I didn't anticipate, or a situation arose that was out of my control. So I'm like, look, let's not bring on the stress because we got work to do and I can't operate and a space of empathy if I'm carrying baggage and I'm carrying weight from whatever just transpired. And I will not lash out on my staff, on my children, or whoever, because I'm dealing with a situation that I don't want to go through. So whatever it takes for me to process that patience, to get to the point where I can do whatever I got to do, that's what I got to do. So I want to encourage you that although I may share some things that I do, I want you to think about from your own context, what can you do for yourself? What can you fit into your routine to bring you to this place of intentional empathy? So who am I? I gave y'all a little bit, but let me tell you, on the basis for empathy, it is very important that you are able to connect with your audience and that they're able to connect with you. So there are some relators in the room, there's some analyzers in the room, there's some expressors in the room, there's some drivers in the room. So when I tell you who I am, I got to think about all of you that are in this space if I want to be able to connect with you. So without reading the entire slide, I'm going to point out a few things. So for my relators, my name is Latonia Monroe Naylor. I'm born and raised here in Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm a military baby. My dad was in the Army, so I lived all over the country, all over the world. I've lived in different places, traveled a lot. I'm the mother of 5. I have 4 beautiful teenage children, and I have a new baby, Nala, and she officially made me a fur mom. So I'm really happy. Loyal wife of over 22 years, an evangelist and a pastor's wife. Some of my analyzers out there. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, master's degree in nonprofit management and philanthropy. I have a certificate of board governance. I'm a certified trainer in a wide array of topics like trauma-informed care, cultural humility, DEIB, effective communication. I'm an aspiring author. My book is expected to be complete and ready to go by January 2024. Thank you. For my drivers, I've managed multi-million-dollar grant programs as a funder. I have oversight and responsibility for obtaining funding for multi-million-dollar state and federal grant programs. I have oversight of a $500 million plus budget, right? That's some things for my drivers. For my expressors, thank you for making my grandson smile. I have never seen him smile in a picture, but he is smiling in yours. Proud grandparent of a program participant. Thank you for providing a place for me to learn, grow, and feel valued. I am so blessed to be staff at your organization. So this is for my expressors. Come on in, Tiffany. And so you can sit here too if you want. So first of all, I want to say, for those of you who know what you are, did you feel that connection when I gave you the thing that was specific to you? Because some people are like, look, don't talk to me if you can't prove that you know how to do it. Some people are like, I don't care if you can prove it. You just made me feel good. Keep talking, right? So you got to be able to identify what the folks are that are on the receiving end of whatever you're doing. How are you making them feel? Because let me tell you, your intention doesn't matter. What matters is how they feel, right? Maya Angelou has told us that a million times. We've seen that quote. It doesn't matter what you say. It matters how you make me feel, right? That's what I'm going to remember. So, just in case those expressors didn't hit you, here's one. Now, my daughter, who's in college, is looking at her own picture that she was taking, so excuse her not looking to the lens. But this is my family, right? And that's my little Nala. She's just, Let me tell you something about puppies. You can remember everything that they do. They can eat your underwear. They can tear up your socks. And it's like they're so cute. And they look at you. You're like, oh, but you're so darn cute. Right? You would just forget all about it. I actually go to meetings now, and I don't talk about my kids. I talk about my knowledge. So, so what is empathy?
I thought you were talking about your kids.
See? But she is my kid, right? Thank you, Frank. I appreciate you reminding me of that, because I tell you, it is really, I don't know if you have a fur baby, but when you get one, it's really like great. It's like the best feeling. They are so happy to see you all the time. Like, you just saw me 5 minutes ago and I came back and you're excited again. Yes, let's do this again. I need this today. And so what is empathy? Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. What is empathy versus sympathy? Because a lot of times people think sympathy and empathy are the same thing. And many of us know that is not the case, right? Empathy is shown in how much compassion and understanding we can give to another. Sympathy is more of a feeling of pity. So you're looking down on somebody like, oh, I feel so sorry for you. Versus, wow, I feel you. I understand. Empathy is our ability to understand how someone feels, while sympathy is our relief that we're not having the same problem. Thank God I got a new pair of shoes. I feel so bad for her. Oh, wouldn't be wearing those anywhere, you know? So Brené Brown said, empathy is communicating that incredible healing message of you are not alone. That's it. So the thing is, not all empathy looks and feels the same, just like all the other emotions that we have. They don't all look and feel the same. And I'm not saying this because Frank is in the room. I actually do have it in my notes, Frank. But one of the people in my life that has really taught me about empathy was Miss Dora Robinson, right? And I literally have her in my notes, Frank. And the reason why is because I can remember seeing her exhibit a level of empathy in her leadership as I worked under her at the United Way for the years that I did work with her. And one of the things that I can say about empathy that I learned from her is not a weakness. It's not like, oh, you're just carrying your feelings around and letting people hurt your feelings all the time. Empathy is strength. It's a strength. It's the ability to control and dictate how you're going to respond to people in their situation because you have the ability to see past what is actually happening at that moment. And I've seen her be very stern with people and say things like, wow, girl, you said that. But she knew how to say it in a way that was received well, wasn't taken as disrespect, but it was still firm. So you can still have the ability to be forceful and be empathetic at the same time. Another person that I had on my list around empathetic leadership was my boss, Tim Kulik. And I worked for him for almost 10 years in corporate America in Connecticut. And one of the things that I learned from him was even in for-profit, you can still find a way to show people that you value them and their families and their family life and the responsibilities that people have outside of your organization. And if you do that well and balance that well, you will have people that will be very loyal to you, very respectful, and if they have to leave you, they're going to leave you in a good space. They're not going to just leave your entity and who cares who gets the job. They're going to help you find somebody to replace them. They're going to help you figure out what needs to be done because you have been good to them and you've treated them with a level of respect that most people just don't have the ability to do. So emotional intelligence is really important that we talk about this because this was something that was trending in 2017, 2018, kind of highlighted right before COVID kicked off and we had the pandemic. And when it first came out in 2017-ish, there was a Harvard Business Review that really only focused on self-awareness, social skills, motivation, and self-regulation. However, empathy was there, but it was listed under social skills. But this is the thing. As the years progressed, people started to realize that the level of complexity of how you get to a place of empathy is so complex that it needed its own umbrella. So what they did is they moved it out and now it's its own pillar. So empathy is so vital that it was recently added as a fifth pillar of emotional intelligence. And this is very important that we understand this. And it actually should say social awareness on there, not social skills. So there are different types of empathy. And the reason why I want to share this is that a lot of times when we talk about empathy, people are like immediately going to the worst kind of empathy. And they're like, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. That's just crazy. Who wants to do that? And so empathy can be cognitive, it can be emotional, and it can be compassionate. Okay? The cognitive aspect of empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, right? See things from their perspective. So a lot of times we've been, you just gotta, you have to get in their shoes. You have to see it the way that they live it. And I'm sorry to say, but if you're a wealthy white person living out in Long Meadow and you never had a bullet fly through your house, you're never going to see it the same way that I see it because you never had the experience. So one thing about this level of empathy is that even though you're asking somebody to put themselves in somebody's shoes, it's very, very difficult to do that if you have not had the experience. And it almost feels fake and it feels more logical than it does really substantive. Please come in and have a seat. There are some seats open. I would love for you to sit down if you would like to. Emotional is another type of empathy, and it's being able to feel the emotions of another individual and respond. Now, often what happens with emotional empathy is that people become over emotional. This is where people get compassion fatigue or vicarious trauma. This is where people are working with folks and they want to help them so much that they just go overboard and they go over that boundary. And now they're actually carrying the baggage and it's not healthy. So we have to be careful when we talk about empathetic leadership to be very clear what type of empathy we're talking about. We are not saying to be overly emotional and not have boundaries and not protect your own self-interest when you're encountering people or when you're dealing with people. Because what happens is you can have an employee that's completely substandard, not working properly, but because they're going through something at home, you just keep paying them, keep taking whatever, keep making excuses for them, and now your whole entire organizational culture is suffering because of your feelings for this one person. Everybody's suffering, everybody's going through, everybody's miserable, everybody's having extra therapy sessions because this person is making their life miserable. But because you see what they're going through, you're not setting boundaries. So understand that empathy does not allow you to just let people run any kind of way in your organization and not hold them accountable. You have to still hold people accountable. So this is why compassionate empathy is so important, because it relates to someone's pain, but gives you the ability to move forward and assist. Now, this is a balance. This is you almost seeing where they're coming from, trying to understand where they're coming from, but then still saying, hey, but we got to hold each other accountable. That doesn't happen in one instance or one encounter. You have to build that up in your dealing with your staff, and you're dealing with your children, and you're dealing with whoever. There's a level of expectation that you want people to start to see you as this empathetic person, but also this person that's going to hold them accountable. And that means you have to do the extra work of making sure that you are compassionate, but being assertive at the same time and being very clear that these are the rules, these are the expectations. So a perfect example, a lot of times, especially in nonprofits, corporate is much better with this. But in nonprofit, we don't have standard operating procedures. We don't have all these things going on. And as soon as somebody messes up, we're like, well, I don't know what's going on. Well, you didn't put the right things in place to make sure that the person could be successful, first of all. So once you make sure that you put measures in place to make sure they're successful, if they're still failing, if you're doing reviews, if you're doing all these things, now you've done your part. So now you don't need to feel like, oh my God, I did the worst thing by firing this person, if that's what it happens to be. But it may not get to that if you're setting up the proper guardrails. Understand? It does feel difficult when you care about people to enforce, but you have to for the betterment of the mission, for the betterment of your constituents, for the betterment of the entire organizational culture. Don't let one person be the rotten apple that destroys the whole tree. Okay? And you could be the rotten apple because you're not addressing things properly. Just let that sink in for a second. So I talked about the different types of empathy. Let's talk about a couple of ways to show. If you're in cognitive, I ask my staff to give me a review. Some supervisors are like, what? You asked them to do what? Yeah, we're going to sit down, I'm giving you a review. Now tell me, how am I doing? Tell me, when we do a check-in, how am I doing? How did that make you feel when I said this? Is there a better way that I could have said this to you? How does it feel when you asked me to do X, Y, Z and I responded in that way? Did you feel like you had the tools in place to be successful? I want to know, am I doing my job? Because the board is going to say I'm doing a great job because I'm bringing in money. And they see everybody looking like they're doing a good job. But what about the people that are under you, that are reporting to you? Do they feel like you're doing a good job? So thinking outside of the box is starting to turn it around and give a little bit more voice to the folks that are reporting to you. Get to know your employees and colleagues, but from a distance. Please don't start inviting people over to Thanksgiving. Like, you got to come, like, we're being empathetic. You got to come to my house for Thanksgiving. No. Still got to keep boundaries, because you still want to respect the fact that some people don't feel like doing all that. And if all the majority of the department is coming to your house for Thanksgiving, now they're going to feel they have to because they're going to look like the sourpuss. You don't want to put people in that situation. So be very careful that when you're doing these things, it's happening in a work environment. Maybe you're doing something with your staff a couple times a year. We modeled after the Community Foundation, and we do The first week of July and the first week of January, we have off, no strings attached. Like, it's not vacation, they get paid. But like, look, you rejuvenate, spend some time with your family. You're doing tough work. You need time to rejuvenate and process, just like I need time to rejuvenate and process. So let's all rejuvenate and process at the same time. And don't call me and I won't call you, right? So you're giving people the space to have boundaries and be respectful. And the other thing is, ask people what they prefer. Are you okay with me texting you? Are you okay with me calling you? Are you okay? Some people don't want to talk to you after work hours and just don't, because it's going to offend them. Some people are like, look, don't wait till the next day. Please just send me a text and give me a heads up. I won't respond, but I at least want to know what's going on so I'm not surprised when I come in the office the next day. Having a communication is super, super important. Heart and feeling. Tell your staff or colleagues that you care. If something happens and everybody else knows it happened, don't walk around here like because they didn't tell you directly, you don't know, and you're just going to keep it moving because it's all about work. Like, address the fact that somebody's kid got in a car accident or something like that. Like, get a card and give it to them. Do something to show people you care. You're not just here to get paid to do the job. You're here because we value you as a person, your entire being, right? Action and doing. Give people time to speak. My managers and my supervisors in here, y'all know you're guilty of it, so I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. You sit in the staff meeting and you talking for the whole time. Hello, this is a check-in with everybody, not just you. Telling everybody what you got to do for 50 minutes, and now you're going to rush them through the last 10 minutes because you got a call to make. How valued does that make them feel? And we do it with our kids too, so I'm going to throw that in there because empathy is not being empathetic at work and then you go home and you forget how to be empathetic.
Right.
Because I'll be the first one. I have apologized to my kids. My husband was like, you did what? My mom was like, you did what? Like, we didn't do that. Well, I'm doing that because I just offended them by saying what I said and I need to apologize, right? And so I'm breaking that cycle because in my culture, the older person's right all the time. Not today. I was wrong. I was wrong. I will not do that again. I apologize. Please forgive me. Like, I will do that in a minute. So empathy is showing you're the stronger person. Being able to apologize and identify where you can improve is very important. But not just for them, for you too. So I'm not going to read all this, but I put this up here because it's a study. And basically, what this study shows is that higher employee engagement, higher retention, and higher increased inclusivity and better work-life balance happens when there's empathy in the leadership. And there's a survey that I talk about, it's by Catalyst. You can look it up because it's a really good survey. You really should look at it. We are all in the people business. Focusing on empathy improves your entire being, creating a pathway for a balanced work and life. Now, I'm going to not speed through, but kind of get through these last couple of slides because I do want to catch up before we have to dismiss. But the pathway to empathy, there was an empathy scale that was created by Hogan in 1969 and basically talked about self-confidence, even-temperedness, all of that good stuff. But let me tell you, even if you can't afford to do Hogan's assessment or you don't want to pay for it, there's something called self-reflection. That does not cost you anything. Okay? Not at all. At the end of the day, you sit there, you listen, you think about how did people respond when I did this? How did I come up? You know good and well when you said something and you shouldn't have said it. Yeah. And if you're not able to do that, then you really better get into a deep meditation, go on a vacation, do something like, look, I need to take some personal time because if I don't, I'm going to tear the whole ship up. And the reason why we can't keep staff is because of me, not because of them, it's because of me. Like, we have to be able to admit that. How are we treating people? And yes, we've been through a lot, and yes, we go through a lot, but guess what? The greatest among you shall be the least. You have to learn how to serve. You have to learn how to be there to support your staff. And if you can't do that, well, how can you expect them to, with everything they have going on, do their job and stay focused and want to be loyal to you? They're not going to want to. They'll do it in your face and they'll smile, but behind their back, they're looking for another job. They're hoping something else comes through. Yes, thank you. I finally got an interview. Because you are not treating them in a way that makes them feel valued. Empathy is, I understand that it has been difficult time for you. How can we support you in managing your workload? Empathy is not, you need to get the work done. I don't care what's going on. Some of us have said it. Some of us have thought it, even if we didn't say it. And if you thought it, believe me, it came out in your tone. I'm here to listen. Please share your concerns or ideas, and we'll work together to find a solution. I don't have time for your problems. Just do your job. Again, we thought it if we didn't say it. And if we thought it, it showed up in our actions. People feel it. They know. Your body language is like, get out of here. Please don't come back in here one more time. And part of it is thinking about what can you do to put systems in place so they don't have to come in here every 5 minutes. Because sometimes it's like, look, if you just can't figure it out, then you don't have to keep coming in here irritating me because you keep disrupting me, right? So what do I have to do as a boss, as a leader, as a supervisor, whatever you call yourself? How do I make sure that my staff are equipped so that they don't feel the need to have to come to me? If that's something that annoys me, you got to think about it in advance. I noticed you've been working hard lately. How can we make your job more manageable? I don't see why you're struggling. It ain't that hard. I did it. I worked my way up. How come you can't figure it out? Again, we may not say it, but if we think it, they can feel it. You may not say these things, but this is what your actions say. You're just a little kitten, all innocent. I just come to work every day. I just want to see the mission, and I just want to see the work, but that's what they see. Every time you turn around. They're not happy. They're never happy. People walking into your office like, oh, no, today, did you get her coffee yet? How many coffees does she need? Did she get her third cup yet? That is not the way that you want people to perceive you if you want people to stay loyal and give you everything. Some people will be loyal, because that's what they're taught to do, but they're not going to give you everything if you are treating them in a way that's going to make them feel like you are a vicious lion every time you walk into the room. And I'm saying this loud, and I know you know who you are in this room. I've been there and done that, right? Take the time to reflect in your day. Identify why you may have responded indifferently. Is there something you're dealing with? And what can you do about it? Is there self-care? Is there time you need to take off? Legit, take a day off. Put it on your calendar. I have certain days of the week I don't meet with anybody. My calendar is completely blocked. I am not meeting with anybody because I need to decompress because I don't want to get overwhelmed. And this is me managing myself. Right. You have to manage yourself before you can think about managing all the other people you have to manage, including your children and your husband or your wife or whoever. You got to manage yourself. Self-care is imperative. You cannot pour out of an empty cup. Mm-hmm. If you have a cup and it's empty, how can you give anybody anything? And your cup is completely empty because you're stressed, you're going through, you have challenges, health issues, whatever. You got to find time to refill that cup so that when people see you, you are at your best and able to do whatever it takes to make them feel comfortable in that space. Because the minute they don't feel comfortable, it is not their fault. It is your fault because you are the one that's supposed to make them feel safe and brave in that space. So, empathy requires stretching. I have my little stockings on today. All my ladies in here, my women, females, anybody that wears stockings, y'all know what I'm talking about. You get the little pack and they look about that big. But by the time you get through stretching them bad boys out all kind of ways so you can put them on your legs, it's a stretching. Empathy is not a weakness. It can be learned. It can be taught, even to adults. I don't care how old you are. If you make a conscious choice and effort, you can learn to be more empathetic. It requires intentionality, authenticity, humility. That's requiring you to say, hey, ego, sorry, you got to go. And integrity. Being honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself at night and say you was all nice to people. Don't do it. Just be honest. I was hateful. I did. I was very hateful. I shouldn't have said that. I didn't like the shoes she had on, and they were screeching, and I just had to say something. I just didn't like it. Why am I feeling like this? I need a massage? I don't know. Maybe I need some more tea. I don't know. Maybe I need a looser dress. I don't know. But whatever the problem is, I need to find out why am I acting this way and be honest with myself. Because if we're not honest, we can't do better. We can't do better. And most importantly, like I said, be honest with yourself. So know that. I'm not telling you something that this is easy. I'm never going to say being empathetic is easy. Especially when somebody cut you off in traffic, somebody spilled something on you, somebody yelled at you, stuck the middle finger up at you, and all you were trying to do is mind your business and drive like a normal person. The speed limit is 40. Why do you want me to drive 50? Get off my bumper. But that is just what it is. And so I practice different things. Like I make up stories in my head. I'm like, that person must just be going through. Maybe they're Maybe they're just, I don't know. Maybe somebody stepped on their toe. I don't know. Maybe their kid is sick. I don't know. I just tell myself things to make myself be able to deal in that situation. That's my coping mechanism, right? We all got to find our own little coping mechanisms. And it gets fun sometimes riding down the street. Oh, wow, looks like they're in a hurry to go nowhere. I wonder what they're doing, and now I'm not getting angry because the person's cut me off. I got a whole story in my head as to why they're whatever, because I am not losing my cool. It's not worth it. Stress is the number one killer, and I'm not trying to die anytime soon, right? And when I say that, I don't just mean physical, I mean organizationally, I mean family. Like, you can destroy people in relationships because you can't handle your own emotions. And you're not willing to stretch enough to see that it's more than about you, but it's about other people as well. And you will get what you need because you're making the effort to do what you need to do to make other people feel safe and providing this space. Somebody's going to do the same thing for you. There's always going to be somebody looking for you to say, hey, I see what you're doing. This is great. Let me help you because you're doing a great work. And so, any questions? I feel like we might have a minute or two, but I don't know. If anybody has any questions. I sped through that.
I have one question.
Yes.
How come you don't have your own television program?
Oh, I love it. Well, I have a book soon. My book will be done by January.
I'll be happy to promote it. My specialty is marketing and advertising.
Yes. Well, give me your card and I will gladly take it. Absolutely. Thank you. Tracy?
Do you recommend providing, I know you said you're in your space when you need to kind of get yourself together. Do you provide that space? Do you recommend providing that same type of opportunity for your staff during their day?
Yeah, so I'm so happy you asked that question. We actually created a room in our office and we called it like a Zen room. We named it Angel's Corner, and it's in a memory of one of our staff's moms who was killed by domestic violence a few decades ago. And because our organization focuses so heavily on domestic violence and different kinds of trauma, we thought it just made sense to make her feel valued in that way by recognizing her mom. She's the only staff member that's remote. She's in Florida, and so we wanted her to feel that. But then also our staff know, as we're all building out this space together, that this is a place where you can go pray, relax, and it's for our clients as well. Our clients know that they can go in that space and they can chill. So you don't have to be set up for a therapy session in that room to go in there. At any moment, people can take the time and go into that space and decompress and find whatever they need. And I'm very flexible. They'll tell you when it comes to the schedule and everything, I'm like, look, these are the things that I know you need to do for the week. If something happens and a child gets sick and you got to go home early or something like that, they can work from home. But then what they'll do is, without me even asking, they'll send me a report and say, hey, just wanted you to know this is what I worked on today, and let me know if there's anything else. Because we've created a culture of being responsible and accountable. So I don't have to say, what did you do today, or what's done. When we do our check-in, I might want to know that. But just because of the expected accountability that we all have with one another, it's provided that opportunity. So that was a longer answer. I take the scenic route when I respond to questions. But I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
One more question? Yes.
So how do you build, I don't know what size organization you are.
Well, we are right now, we are literally in our sixth year. We're in our third year of actually funding and having staff and everything like that. We have 4 full-time staff members, 2 part-time staff members, and a host of volunteers and things like that we work with and families.
Right. So how do you build that type of empathy culture when you enter into a culture that is not that way? How do you redesign?
So somebody said it earlier, one department at a time, one person at a time. It's really important, and I've seen this happen. So through my work at the school committee, I've seen this happen, and some boards that I've been involved in, where as soon as you start to level up on the expectations and the culture, people will leave if they don't feel comfortable. And that's a good thing. If you don't want to comply with what the expectations are for the culture, goodbye. We will find somebody else that will come in and exemplify that. So then there has to be this understanding that as we're stretching ourselves, we also have to think outside the box of how we are going to cover these gaps that are going to surface, because people are going to leave. But then it gives us an opportunity, because conflict is always good. It helps us to reinvent and be creative around how do we then respond. So when we've had gaps, we then got together and said, hey, this is an opportunity for us to do X, Y, Z. We never got a chance to do this. Now we can see how this works, and now we can implement that to see if that works better. And so, yeah, I would say that it's not going to be overnight, but literally it's like turning up the fire on a pan. People will jump out the frying pan when it starts to affect their ability to not want to change. Thank you. If there are no other questions, thank you so much. I hope it helps you what I said. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.